Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 12 o'clock on a Sunday, which means it's time for a Q&A. This is where I take all the questions that you've asked over the course of the week and I try to answer them to the best of my ability. Now, I never look at the questions beforehand. That way you get my raw, unedited opinion. But if there is a question that I think is especially good, I will turn it into a future video. If you have any questions that you want me to answer, leave them in the comments to this video and I will get back to them to the following Sunday. Now, I film these generally on a Wednesday. It's currently very early on a Wednesday morning, so I'll film it on a Wednesday or a Thursday. So if you want to guarantee having your question answered, please make sure that you ask it by Tuesday, and then it'll pretty much always be on the show. If I do miss a question, I apologise profusely, and just ask it again, and I'll get to it next week. Anyway, without further ado, there are some great questions this week. I have just scanned through them, so it looks like there's some really good questions. So without further ado, let's go straight into this week's questions. Okay, so the first question is by Mark James 73, and Mark James 73 says, I'm super excited for Blackpool, so am I, like beyond excited. I need this, I'm telling you right now, I need this. I'm beyond excited for Blackpool, and I'm especially excited about your lecture. Thank you very much. What can we expect from your lecture? What is the content going to be? Okay. That's a really great question. What am I doing in my lecture? I'm going back and forth with a few different things. There's something that I definitely want to do. And the one thing that I definitely want to do is I want to make the lecture, what am I trying to say here? I want to make the lecture not a dealer dem. I've gone to lectures in the past and it's been very much a dealer dem. It's kind of like, right, this is my marketed trick. You can buy it from over there. This is my marketed trick. You can buy it from over there. And it's basically the equivalent of sitting down and watching an hour's worth of trailers on Penguin's website or something like that. And I really don't like that. I think that when you go to a lecture, you should be able to get tricks that you can action immediately or tricks that you can do straight away. And yeah, for sure, you can then obviously buy stuff if you want to, because that's the whole point of somebody lecturing, but you get value from the lecture just by being at the lecture without having to buy anything, if that makes sense. So that's something I'm really passionate about. Also, I've got a lot of people messaging me at the moment, asking me to do lectures, and it is something that I want to do more in 2022. I want to do a lot more lectures. And the problem with Blackpool is you only have an hour, and with other places you have longer. And the format I'm trying to create for the other lectures that I'm doing wouldn't work for Blackpool. So for you guys, so you know, I'm trying to put together for any lectures I get booked for in 2022, and as I say, I'm going to be doing quite a few of them, kind of almost like a Magic TV live. So bringing Magic TV to a lecture. So it's not just a lecture where I stand there and I do magic, but it encompasses everything about Magic TV. And I've got a few different ways of how that could happen, including getting Ryland involved in a certain capacity, virtually, which I think could be super fun. And I've got a whole bunch of creative ideas that haven't really been seen on the lecture circuit before. So, but that wouldn't work at Blackpool. So Blackpool, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and what I'm leaning towards at the moment, I like the idea of doing a lecture where you kind of say to people, look, there's a dealer room through there, and there's millions of tricks. And you could go in that room and spend thousands, and then you will go home with a big bag of stuff that you probably won't use. Or you can take the things that are at home that are sitting in your bottom drawer, or you've been using them in a particular way, and you can re-examine those and go in a completely different direction. And then kind of take some of those common props and go through ideas that I can share with them about how they can actually do that. Because one of my favorite things in Magic is taking stuff that everybody does and kind of trying to turn it on its head and seeing what other routines I can squeeze out of it. You see that with Visible, you see that with Beyond Stebbins. Even in a way, you see that with my playlist project, because, it's kind of taking certain concepts and applying it to something else. And I think that'd be a really interesting thing to do. I've got a few other ideas as well, but you know what? I'm fleshing it out at the moment, and I'm willing to take any ideas. So if you've got an idea, if you're going to Blackpool and you've got an idea and you want to see me talk about that idea, bearing in mind I've only got 1 hour, let me know down below, because I'd really love your feedback. Okay, so the next question is from Adrian Suter, and Adrian says, "Hey Craig, hey Adrian, I like the review shows you do with Ryland. Me too. I watched some of the early ones too. The progression Ryland has made as a performer is amazing. I agree. I think that apart from being fun, magic, it also has great educational value for kids. Correct. What is your experience in this regard, and what are the good magic tricks for kids to learn, especially when they haven't got a parent who is a professional magician?" I mean, I think magic is such a great hobby for kids of any age. And, I don't want to make this sound like an advert for a workshop or something like that, but there are so many benefits from, teaching kids how to do magic. It'll help with their communication skills. It'll help with their confidence. It'll help with their dexterity. It'll help with their memory. And it's something that they can practice, that they can do, that they can get better at. There's a built-in community where they can share ideas. It's great. It really is. I absolutely love. I think that all kids should be given the opportunity to learn magic if they want to. Now, not all kids will learn magic, but I think that all kids should be given the opportunity to learn magic. In terms of what tricks are easiest to learn, especially if you haven't got a parent who's a magician, for sure Ryland has benefited from me being a magician, 100%, because I've been able to teach him anything, and I've been able to kind of maybe push him more than somebody else would, because I know what he's capable of, and I've got a fairly big repertoire of tricks in that regard. But I mean, you can, whether you're a magician or not, as a parent of a child, as long as you know the tricks would be suitable, I don't see there's a problem. So I personally think, I mean, there's some great early tricks that you can learn. Dynamic coins is great. That was a very early trick that Ryland learned. Dynamic coins, stuff with a paddle, the cups and balls, a lot of the standard stuff you'd see in Marvin's Magic is great. Absolutely great. I think a turning point for Ryland, especially very early on, was when he learned the sponge balls. Because the sponge balls taught him a few different things. First of all, it taught him about the importance of structuring a routine and having different phases and moving from one phase to another phase, and not just have that quick moment of magic. It taught him how to do a vanish, and learning just how to do a vanish alone is so vitally important when it comes to learning how to be a magician, because it will teach you so much. A vanish teaches you about misdirection. It teaches you about palming. It teaches you about eye contact. It teaches you about delaying the moment of magic with the vanish. It teaches you about perception versus reality, and all these different concepts that it teaches. So I think, and sponge balls encompasses vanishes, it encompasses routining, it encompasses so much. I think sponge balls is something that once they've got a grasp on magic, I think that that's something they should get into straight away. Ryland's card skills aren't as good as his other stuff, because I've never really pushed him down the card route. He's okay. He's not bad at all. He can do all the standard card moves, and he loves cards, and I'm sure he'll get even better over time. But I've never pushed him towards cards, and maybe that's just because of me as a magician. I've been more into stuff that's non-card material, so he's naturally gravitated that way as well. But I think that when, especially earlier on, you have to teach the kids stuff that they can do without too much trouble. Because I think that one thing that really locks you in as a fan of magic is seeing the reaction that people have to the tricks that you do. I asked Ryland the other day, I said, what do you really love about magic? And he said, I love performing, but beyond that, it's about the reactions that I get from the people who watch me perform magic. He said, I love watching their faces when they do this. And I found that very interesting, and I think that that's very important, and that's very telling. So I think you need to teach them stuff that has a low barrier to entry, stuff that they can do very, very easily, and they can get that reaction, which is why some self-working stuff is great. Teach a cut deeper force, you can do that straight away, and you're going to get that reaction. Teach a cross-cut force, you're going to get that reaction. That's important, I think. So yeah, I would start off with stuff that they can do straight away, then maybe go into the more common gimmick stuff, but eventually transition into sleight of hand. And Ryland went down the route of coin magic very early on, and then obviously found cubes and, spent so much time working on cubes. But regardless what it is, I think the most important thing is have fun. Make sure that the kid that's learning magic has a lot of fun with it, because ultimately, end of the day, that's what magic should all be about. It should be fun. And I think sometimes some magicians forget that. I think they forget that this whole thing's meant to be fun when they're sitting there practicing the trick or arguing online. I think we forget that magic is meant to be fun. Okay, so the next question is from Naptown Illusions. Naptown says, Craig, I understand you got into magic when you were 18. Yes, indeed. Yes, sir. And I'm now 18. Awesome. I have my first real corporate gig coming up. I'm super excited for the gig, but my question for you is, when did you do your first paid gig? Man, I'm 46 now. So we're going back a long time, almost 30 years. Jesus Christ, I'm old. So when was my first paid gig? It was quite a while afterwards. It depends on your definition of paid gig. Because when I got into magic, obviously, very early on I did Camp America, but that wasn't a performing gig, that was a teaching thing. So that doesn't count. And I got the job in Green's Joke and Stage Shop, which is a magic shop. Can you say that's a paid gig? Probably not, because I was getting paid to dem magic in the shop, but I wasn't like getting paid to go and do a gig, so that probably wasn't it. And I had a real confidence issue when I was working. So I got into magic, did Camp America, and then I blagged my way into a job in a magic shop. But it wasn't a proper magic shop. It was mainly a fancy dress shop that had a magic counter. And I was just there behind the magic counter, demming magic to people as they came in. And I had a real confidence issue at performing to people outside of the shop environment. I just couldn't do it. It just made me nervous even thinking about it. And the guy who ran the shop, he was an amazing guy. He's not with us now, unfortunately, rest in peace. But Jim Green knew that I loved magic and was trying to push me into performing. And he got me a gig for free. So I think this would probably be my first gig at a Rotary Club performing magic. And I genuinely died on my arse. I really did. It was a horrible, horrible, horrible situation. I absolutely died on my arse. And I think the reason I died on my arse is because I was so nervous, because I was working myself up to this gig, and I was really working myself up to this gig. And I was just like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I think it was probably a few years after that. You know what? It would probably be my mid-20s, I reckon, before I even did a paid gig. I reckon. Yeah, it was probably about mid-20s. So, I mean, I got into magic when I was 18. It was probably about 25, something like that, before I did my first paid gig. I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. So it's about 7 years. It took me a while to actually get over my fear of performing. I've always been nervous before every gig. Like, still now, when I do a higher profile gig or a stage gig or an illusion show on a theatre or something, I still get nervous all of the time. It's just something that happens naturally. But I think, and I've talked about this before on the channel, nerves are good. And it took me a long time to realise that nerves are good. You know, if you're nervous, it means you care. You care about doing a good job. If you weren't nervous, you wouldn't care, right? If you didn't care, you wouldn't be nervous. So I think it's just taking that nervous energy and channeling it and making it work for you as opposed to working against you. And that's what I do every single time I do a gig. But it was years, absolutely years. It was about 7 years, so there you go. So if you're doing a gig at 18 and it's your first corporate gig, you are light years ahead of me. Light years ahead of me. And I think that with Ryland, I see Ryland and I see where he is at 9. At only just turned 9 years old. And I think, man, at 9, all I was doing was picking my nose and eating the bogies, and that's all I was doing. And then I see this kid doing all of this incredible stuff, and I'm like, wow. When I was 18, I got into magic. Where is he going to be at 18 if he keeps it up and he doesn't find girls and get distracted? So, I hope that answers your question. Good luck with your corporate gig. I know you will smash it. But, any other questions, let me know here on Magic TV. Okay, so the next question, there's various people that have asked this question in various different places on Magic TV and Instagram and even my own personal Facebook page. A lot of people are wanting to know about the trick that gets released with Murphy's on Friday. Now, you're going to be watching this on Sunday, so the trailer will have been released, so I can talk about it. I can't talk about it now, but I can talk about it because you're not going to be seeing this video until Sunday. It's like time travel. It's so weird, isn't it? At the moment, we're releasing these teaser videos every single day. I'm releasing a new teaser video. So the first one was of people like Adam Wilbur and Mark Oberon just going, what? And then the next one was Roddy McGhie losing his mind over seeing this trick. And we've got a few teaser videos planned up until the launch on the Friday. Yeah, because it's Sunday, you will have seen that. So the trick is called the Quantum Deck, and it's the first release through Murphy's, the first of many releases with Murphy's, but it's the first release of Murphy's, and I'm so super excited about this. When I showed this trick to Lloyd Barnes, I was on a Zoom call with Lloyd about something completely different, and I showed him this trick. He was like, "Hey, show me something." So I showed him this trick, and he was just blown away. He just couldn't believe it. He thought that somehow I'd faked it, and he asked me to do it again. I was like, okay. I ended up doing it like 4 times, and on the final time, he was convinced there was like some sort of duplicate card involved. So he told me to write on the card, and I was like, okay, I'll write on the card. I'll write Murphy's. And he's like, no, don't write Murphy's, write tomato. So I was like, okay, I'll write tomato. And I did it again and again and again and again and again. And he was just completely blown away. And immediately he said, you got to jump on with the rest of the creative team and show these guys. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. So there I am performing this to people, you know, like Titanus and Javier and Lloyd, and it was kind of, Lloyd had said, hey, this is going to fool the shit out of you, you need to watch this, and I was quite a nervous situation. It felt like going on to Penn and Teller, but I did the trick and they were all completely fooled, and immediately they were like, oh my gosh, this is something that needs to come out now, this is just like really good. And it is a really good trick. Like it's it's my favorite trick to do in every situation. So it's part of my stage show. And it's part of my close-up act. Anybody who's been out gigging with me at any point in the last couple of years will have seen me performing this. Anyone who's been to a virtual show will have seen me perform this. It's a really great trick. So it's basically a card at any number, but with a blank deck. So you put the blank deck down on the table in front of you, and the basic trick, the basic routine here is you put the blank deck down on the table in front of you, and you have somebody name a card. You say, no, you don't. That's an alternate handling. You tell them that there's a printed card in the deck. You tell them what it is. It's got a blue back. It's the 7 of diamonds. It's at a position in the deck. What position would you like it to be in? And they name the position. And then you pick up the deck and you start dealing, and you turn each card over one at a time so you can see as you're dealing that each card is blank on both sides. And when you get to their chosen number, that's where the card is. And immediately everything is examinable. And there is genuinely only one printed card in the deck, and they can look through, and they can look at all the other cards, and they can look at the printed card, and it's all completely examinable and copacetic. And it's an instant reset. You don't need a table. You can do it in the spectator's hands. There's no angle problems. It can be a different card every single time. It doesn't even need to be a playing card. And the actual download for this is 5 hours long, which is insane. And I'm known for doing a lot of content with my tutorials. To be clear, it doesn't take 5 hours to explain the quantum deck. If you want to do the routine that you saw me doing in the trailer to people like Adam Wilbur, 15 minutes at the beginning of the tutorial and you're done. You'll learn the secret. It's pretty much self-working. You'll learn how it's done and you'll immediately be able to do it. Like immediately you'll be able to do it. The other 4 hours odd are other routines and other bonus routines. And this comes from me, you know, and I've talked about it on the channel before. It talks about me getting frustrated when I review products, and it's kind of like, this is how it works, this is what you do, thank you very much, goodbye. I hate that because I don't think you give people substance. And I think it shows that they haven't worked the trick in. If it's just very much a case of, this is how it works, thank you very much. So there's like 10 or 11 routines with the quantum deck, because in essence, it can do so much more. It can be the world's greatest force deck. It can do so much. One of my favorite routines on the project that I do all the time is I bring out the quantum deck, and it's a blank deck, and I show it and I say, here, you hold on to that. And they can look through it if they want to. It's genuinely just a blank deck. And you've got another deck, a regular deck, and it is a regular deck, and you say, pick a card, and they do. And you say, sign it, and they do, and you say, put it back in the deck, and now hold the cards in between your hands. So they do that. And then you take the blank deck back, and you say, now in a second, I'm going to have you name a number in this deck. There's 52 cards in the deck. I want you to name a number somewhere in the middle. It's totally up to you. You then give them the cards back, and they hold on to them, and you say, watch. You snap your fingers, and they spread through their regular deck, and the signed card's gone. You then say, what number would you like? I'm going to make your card appear in that deck at the position you want. And they say 22, for example. You take the deck back, you deal to the 22nd card, all the cards are blank, and now there's one card in there, and it's the signed card at the chosen number. And immediately you give them the signed card, and they can examine the deck. And that's just one of the handlings with this. There's a couple of different ways of doing a can, like a genuine a can, so rather than just saying there's a card in the deck, actually saying, okay, name a card, name a number, here's a blank deck, it's here. So there's a lot of substance with the routine, and it's... you know what, for every creator, there's that defining moment, that trick that you kind of think, okay, this is the best thing that creator's ever done. I'm sure we all know, and it's subjective, different creators might have different routines. So with somebody like Greg Wilson, for example, you might think it's Rubicon if you're into Rubik's Cubes, or you might think it's pointless if you're into magic with pens, but it goes without saying that Greg Wilson has created some incredible stuff over the years. You look at Richard Sanders and you might think it's extreme burn, or it might be fiber optics, or it might be interlace, but they all have like that defining trick. And I've created some great tricks over the years, Keymaster and Chop, I've talked about on this channel over and over and over again. But I think for me, this is the best thing I've ever done, ever. And I've created some good stuff. I mean, every trick that I've released since I've come back into the magic community has been so well received, and I'm so grateful of that. But I think this is the best trick I've ever created. And I can't wait for you guys to see it. I mean, I can't really tell you much more else. Everyone who's asked about it, that's what it is. It's basically a way of... And the reason it's called the quantum deck is because the card is in a quantum state of flux without getting too scientific on you. So in other words, the card could be at any position in the deck at the same time. And until they name a number, it could be anywhere, and then when they name that number, it settles on that number. And unlike a lot of card at any numbers, there's no dodgy moves. You just pick up the deck and you start dealing, which is really nice. Some of the tricks where you take the cards out of the box, but you do a move as you take them out of the box or something. There's nothing there. You put the blank deck down on the table, you name a card, you name a number, you deal. And the blank deck really sells it, because the problem with ACAN a lot of the time is it becomes a puzzle. It's like, well, how did he shift the card from that position to that position? But when you've got a blank deck and that's the only card printed in the deck, there's nowhere to go. And when you hand the cards out for examination, well, I mean, where can your mind possibly go? If that kind of makes sense. So yeah, there you go. That's the quantum deck. I've been holding on to this for so long. I've not been able to say anything. And it's took so long. There's an hour of performance footage on the project, because one thing that I wanted to do is let you guys see how it works in every situation. So there's live performances on stage, live performances in comedy clubs, live performances at weddings, corporate dues, private parties, restaurants, virtual performances. Like, there's so many live performances, just so you can see the timing on it and how it works. So there you go. I'm really super excited about it. Any questions that you've got, drop them down below. But that is the quantum deck. Okay, so the next question is by Mr. Harmon, and Mr. Harmon says, great Q&A, thank you. Also love that message on the board, Peter. I forgot that was on there. That was genuinely a mistake. Here's the question. Will you ever do an interview with Roddy McGhie? Yes, I will. It's done. I just have to edit it. It should be coming in the next couple of weeks. I want to try and get it up and out before Blackpool, but it is done. It's done. I've done the interview. The Roddy McGhie interview is done and in the bag. It's just going to, I just need to edit it. But yes, it was an amazing interview. Roddy kept saying to me, you sure you want to interview me? I've got nothing to say. And then it went for like 2 hours. He had a lot to say, and it's all gold. Roddy is amazing. You know how much I think of him. So yes, in answer to your question, we will be doing an interview soon. Check it out. It's going to be coming soon on Magic TV. Okay, so the next question is from Anthony Povey, and Anthony says, hey Craig, any further updates on you doing tricks with the WoW gimmick? Yes, that is a video that's going to be coming soon. I have to be honest with you, the Hows and Whys videos take a long time to put together, because I have to do all the live performances. Then I have to do, it just takes forever. It takes a long, long time. I don't know if I'm going to get it set up this side of Blackpool. So it's probably going to be March when that video comes, to be perfectly honest, because obviously we're now only a week or two away from the Blackpool Magic Convention. I've got a lot going on the run up to that. And here's a spoiler for you. 2 days after the Blackpool Magic Convention, I'm flying over to the States to do a whole bunch of stuff with Penguin for like a week and a half or a week or something. So, and I'm coming back at the beginning of March for my daughter's birthday. It's going to be a whirlwind through to March. Like February, I'm literally all over the place. But I reckon if I don't get it done before Blackpool, it'll be here by mid-March. But it'll be worth the wait, man, because the stuff that I'm going to be sharing with you with the WoW gimmick, I promise you it's going to turn it on its head for anybody who plays with that gimmick. I had so many people say to me after my quiver video, oh wow, I've dug the quiver out of my bottom drawer. You know, I'm doing this routine, I'm doing that routine, I'm doing the other routine. This is going to do the same thing to you with the WoW gimmick, I promise you. Because that's the sort of thing I like doing. I said earlier on, I like doing routines, you know, taking things that I know everybody does the same thing with and really turning it on its head. And this is a perfect example. So yeah, look out for it. It's coming soon. Hopefully in March, maybe before, but probably March. Okay, so the next question is from Junior Rodriguez. How you doing, Junior? Hope you're well. There's a few different questions here. Let's take them. Let's take these first two together as one. Okay, so any chance of interviewing Daniel Garcia or Wayne Houchin? Trying. They're on my bucket list. It takes a long time to do the Talk Magic interviews, man. It takes a long time. I've got to go back and forth, organising a date to do the filming. The filming can take hours, and then editing the Talk Magic interviews is an absolute pain because you're going in between the two views and you're editing between the two views to give the viewer the best possible experience. It takes absolutely forever. But yes, I am working on both Daniel Garcia and Wayne Houchin. And will Netrix, the next question is, will Netrix have a business marketing section? Absolutely, it will have a business marketing section. In fact, this is something that I'm so excited about. So first of all, it's going to have a marketing section anyway. Okay, so I've mentioned before on this platform, there's 3 levels. There's silver, there's bronze, there's silver, and there's gold. And bronze will have access to all of the videos and all of the uploads that happen every single week because we've got a schedule of when we're uploading, and you're going to have access to all of that. And in there's going to be a marketing section where I'm going to be putting videos regularly into that section beyond the tricks that get uploaded. We're also going to be uploading business videos and marketing videos on how to grow a business and how to get more gigs and make more money and increase your turnover and decrease your expenses and increase your profit and all that fun stuff. Because I think that I wanted Netrix, when I envisaged it, I wanted it to be more than just a collection of tricks. I wanted it to be somewhere where you could get advice on how to run a business, because that's something that I've got a lot of experience with that. So why not share that on a platform that I've created? So that's going to be on there. And very, very soon I'm going to be sharing with you what the silver level is and how it's different to the bronze level. But one of the things that you get on the silver level is you get access to 2 separate courses that you don't get on the silver level. And this is just one thing that you get, but you get access to 2 special courses. One of them is called the Virtual Business Coach. And how the Virtual Business Coach works is every single week you get a video in this course. And every week after you get another video. It's what we call drip feeding the information to you. So it's not like a normal course that would appear on Netrix where you get everything immediately. You get a video every single week, and it's based on your enrollment time. So when you enroll, you get to the silver level or the gold level, you get access to this first video, and then every week on the dot from when you're enrolled, you get another video. And the reason I've done it that way, and that's the reason I've done it that way compared to all the other courses on Netrix, is because I want it to be almost like a virtual business coach where I'm holding your hand and taking you through what you need to do within your business to maximize your success. So we start off in the first video talking about goals, because that's so important and it's something that a lot of people don't do. And then I set you some homework. And then the second week, you'll then get the next video, which builds on the first video. And it might be, okay, right now, this is what we need to do in your business. This is what we need to do. And every single week you get this video and there's stuff that you need to do that week. Because when you're wanting to get more gigs and improve your marketing and so on and so forth, it can be overwhelming. It's why a lot of people buy courses on how to be a great SEO expert or how to increase your marketing or anything like that. And they get these videos and they just don't do anything with it because it's so overwhelming. You might have 5 hours of footage and you start looking at stuff and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, you know, you just end up just not doing anything. Whilst with this, it's like a 15-minute video, then some homework. You've got a week to do that, then it's another 15-minute video, then some homework, then another 15-minute video. So in the silver and gold package, one of the many things that you get is this virtual business coach. So that if you are a professional magician and you want to make more money and you want to get more gigs, or you're an amateur and you want to go pro, or you just want to start making money, this is the course to go on because it literally holds your hand. And I go step by step through everything I did within my business to get my business to the point where basically I don't do anything in it right now. Like, I've got my team running it and I'm running around making videos for you guys. So, you know, it's about how to do that. So you get that course, the virtual business coach. There's also a second course that you get because I also understand that there's going to be people that are jumping onto Netrix who don't aspire to be a professional magician. Getting more gigs isn't really a big deal to them, but they might be new into their magical journey and they want to improve as a performer. They want to be in a situation where currently they're learning tricks and they haven't got the confidence to perform it to them, or they're performing it to a couple of people or some mates down the pub, but they want to get to a point where they can walk out at a gig or they can walk out on stage and perform. So the other course that you get, and again, these two courses are just the tip of the iceberg of what you get with silver and gold. But the other course that you get as part of the silver and the gold package, as well as the virtual business coach, is you get the exact same model, but it's called the virtual magical mentor. And it's the same thing. So every single week there's a video and then you get homework set for you, and then there's another video a week later that builds off that one, and another video the week later that builds off that one, and so on and so forth. And this is designed to take you from beginner to pro. So it's designed to take somebody, whatever level you're at, whether you're brand new into magic or you've been doing it for a while but you've never performed to real people, or you've performed to a few real people but you know your magic isn't where you want it to be, and it's step by step what you need to do to get to a position where you go out on stage and you absolutely boss it. And every single week you get tripped some more information. Every single week it builds off the previous week, and there's homework and you've got a week to do it. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that answers your question. But so yes, there's going to be a business marketing section, even just on the bronze level. You're going to have access to that, but it's going to be like, right, this is how to do this, this is how to do this, this is how to set this up, or whatever it may be. But then I think I wanted it to have this kind of hand-holding thing. So it's not just a collection of tricks and ideas, but it's a way of actually really leveling you up as a performer and leveling you up as a business person, because that's what this channel is all about. So those two courses we're super excited about, and they're included in the silver and the gold level, along with a whole bunch of other stuff. So hopefully that answers your question about Netrix and business and marketing courses. As you can see, I'm super excited. I just can't wait for this thing to launch. Okay, so the next question is by Junior Rodriguez again, and Junior says, say you move to a new part of the country and nobody knows you, you have no connections, and you want to start doing magic shows. What would you do to get your name out there? Great question, Junior. So if I've moved to a new part of the country, that pretty much means that I've already been a professional in the part of the country I was in. So I've moved to a new area. Nobody knows me, but I've still got all of my assets. I'm going to have my social proof. I'm going to have my video show reels. I'm going to have all of that stuff, right? So the first thing that I would do probably is I would literally do an overhaul of all the SEO in my website, because my website SEO would be directed towards the area in which I lived in before I moved, and I would want to redo that immediately. That's probably the first thing that I do. I'd want to make sure that I start to get the SEO bots kicking in on the website so that when people are searching for, let's say I've moved to Aberdeen from Birmingham, yeah, I'd want to have people searching magician in Aberdeen, and I'd be coming up pretty damn quick. So I'd be changing all the SEO on my website. I'd also be updating Google My Business so that that's all reflective of where I'm now living. And the other thing that I'd do is I'd search for as many free listing sites that I can find, places like Free Index and things like that, that are location specific, and I'd be putting as many accounts on there as I can, feeding back through to my website. Then I would be updating the blog section every single day because content marketing is king, and it's a great way of pushing people to the website if you use particular search terms. And I'd be looking at the niche I want to operate in. Let's say I want to be a close-up magician. I'd be looking at close-up magicians, and I'd be using search terms that I know they'll be searching for: wedding magician Aberdeen, close-up magician Aberdeen, and I'd be writing blogs every single day. You know, why you should have a close-up magician in Aberdeen, 5 points. Why you should have a wedding magician in Aberdeen, 5 points. And I'd be throwing those blogs up every single day, and then I'd be putting them up on all of my socials. Because I'm still going to have socials, aren't I? Because I've moved to this area. So I'm still going to have my Instagram, I'm still going to have my Facebook, I'm still going to have all of those assets. So I'd literally just be changing all the content on there to talk about the new area in which I'm working in. I'd probably be doing vlogs. That would be taking a lot of time. Now, I'd be doing that behind the scenes. I'd also want to be out there performing as quickly as possible. So as I'm doing that, the other thing that I'd be doing is I'd be getting myself some restaurants in that area, which are very, very easy to do. It's so easy to, I could literally sit on the phone for a day and get myself 5 residences. So I'd probably just spend the first week arranging appointments to go and speak to restaurant owners and doing the research into what restaurants would be best for me. And then I'd be going out there and I'd be creating restaurants, because that's going to do 2 things for me. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to give me an income. It's probably not going to be the income I would want because it's restaurants. So it's going to pay lower, but it's going to give me an income in this new area while I'm building up gigs. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to allow me to give my business card out to absolutely everybody. The next thing I would do is I'd reach out to other magicians in that area and I'd develop connections with them, because if I get restaurants, as I start getting more close-up work, I would want to be having people to cover my restaurant. So I'd be networking with magicians, trying to find the best magicians in the area that are working pros, and saying to them, look, I'd like to give you some work. I've got these restaurants. I'm not going to be able to do them all the time. Excuse me, I'm not going to be able to do them all the time. Can you, would you like to cover? And then hopefully, if I'm giving them work, they'll reciprocate down the line as well. So that's another avenue of gigs coming in, which is great. So that would be the things I'd be doing in the first week or two. I'd be getting restaurant residencies, and I would be updating all the SEO and all of the content on all of my assets, all of my online assets. I would make my digital footprint basically point to my new area. The next thing that I would do beyond that is I would then be speaking to as many entertainment area agents that I know, both entertainment agents that are based elsewhere that cover that area, but also entertainment agents that are specific to that area. If I'm already with an entertainment agent that I was in Birmingham and I've moved, I would say to them, hey, I'm now in Aberdeen, and I'd be getting them to change all my profiles and any agencies that I'm on. But if I'm not in that area, but I'd also be looking for new entertainment agencies in that area, and I'd be sending them all of my assets and show reels and so on and so forth. Oh, and that's the other thing I'd do. Any show reels, I'd completely rechange the tags on the show reels to indicate that it's a new area, or I'd be completely uploading new videos on a regular basis. Yeah. Next thing I'd do is I'd be reaching out to any venues, wedding venues, corporate venues in that area, and introducing myself and trying to get appointments to go and speak to them. Because if they can refer some work to me, that would be incredible, because then I won't have to worry about it too much. So I'll be taking my social proof and my assets into all of these different venues, having appointments with these different venues, trying to get on their recommended supplier list. Next thing I would do is I would be, so next thing that I would do is, although I don't do them anymore. I'd probably see if there are any wedding fairs or something like that coming up in the area, just so I can get people to see who I am and what I do. I'd also then set up some Google AdWords or some pay-per-click that are very location specific for search terms that I want to get. So, you know, close-up magician or wedding magician in Aberdeen or whatever it may be. I'd then go networking, and I'd go find the local networking groups in that area. There's probably going to be a BNI or a networking central or for networking somewhere, and I would go networking. I'd join a networking group for 6 months to a year. I'd go in there, I'd join that, and I would be networking with as many business owners as I can, and generating referrals for them, but also getting them to generate referrals for me. Off the back of that, I would then be really updating my LinkedIn presence to reflect that I'm in Aberdeen and to reflect the people that I'm networking with at that point in my time. That would probably be the first 2 to 3 weeks. And that would probably, I'd be very surprised if after 2 to 3 weeks, if I focused and worked hard and did all of that stuff in the first 2 to 3 weeks, I'd be very surprised if I didn't see bookings start coming in. I'd have my restaurants, but I think I could probably see inquiries coming in within that time period with what I would be doing. Yeah, that would be phase 1, and then I'd go into phase 2 and phase 3 and phase 4. And if that's something you're interested in hearing, we can talk about that in a future video. But I think you'd want to go into that new area and hit the ground running. And, you know, I might even do a competitor analysis in the area as well. Look at what else is going on in that area and look at how that would impact me. But yeah, that's what I'd probably do in the first 2 to 3 weeks. That would be my immediate thing that I'd do first before I started going into anything else. Okay, so the next question is Vladimir's Weiss. And Vladimir says, hello, Craig. What is your opinion on pickpocketing tricks? Yeah, you know what? I love pickpocketing tricks. I really do. Not very good at them, to be honest. I can do a watch steal reasonably well. But I mean, you look at somebody like Greg Wilson, you look at somebody like Apollo Robbins, and they are incredible pickpocketers. I look at somebody like Lee Thompson over here in the UK. He's an incredible pickpocket, and it's such an enjoyable thing to see. And pickpocketing absolutely fits with my character, and I think you have to be a certain character in order to make pickpocketing work for you. So yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I'm not very good at it. Like I say, I can do a watch steal well. That's the only thing that I can do, and that's because I spent so long. I think with pickpocketing, and I think the reason a lot of people don't do it is you have to get burnt. The only way I got good at watch steals was by trying to steal somebody's watch and having them catch me over and over again, and eventually realizing what I needed to do in order to not get caught. And it can be very awkward when, you know, oh, what are you doing? You're stealing my watch. Yeah, sorry about that. But that's really the only way to get good at it. It's literally the only way to get good at it. And I know some magicians don't like that. Some magicians don't like being in that situation where there's potential that you could get caught, right? But I think it's the only way that you can get good at pickpocketing. I tend to do a lot of pseudo pickpocketing. So if you've seen my routine with Extreme Burn, where I hand them a wallet with some £20 notes in it and they hold it in between their hands, and then I take out some receipts and they change places, that's pseudo pickpocketing. I've got a few different routines like that give the impression that I can do pickpocketing, but in reality I can't. That's one of many. And I've actually been booked for pickpocketing gigs before. I have been booked for pickpocketing gigs before. And I've got away with it because I can do a pretty decent watch steal, and I've got a lot of material that gives people the impression I can actually do pickpocketing, whilst in reality I can't. But, you know, I mean, it's perception versus reality. They think I'm a pickpocket. I'll go with that. But I think a true pickpocket is an incredible thing to watch. Every time I watch Apollo Robbins, I'm absolutely blown away. But what's my opinion? I love it. I think it's a real skill. And when I see somebody doing it well, and I mean well, because that's the other thing, it's one of those things that is very easy to do badly. So I see people ham-fistedly trying to take a watch off somebody or take a wallet out of somebody's pocket, and you can just see a mile off what's going on, and the person you're doing it on can see what's going on. That's not good. But if you do it, if you're like a James Brown type person, and you do it well, then sky's the limit. Okay, so the next question is Tom Marquette, and Tom Marquette says, why do corporates book magicians? That's it. Why do corporates book magicians? You know, why does anybody book anything? Why do corporates book magicians? Because they do. But really, if I guess you're asking the question because maybe you want more corporate work, or you're trying to work out why corporates book magicians. Realistically, you want to work out why a corporate would book you, because ultimately, any corporates that book me, they're booking me. They're not booking a magician. They're booking me. They're falling in love with my act. They're falling in love with my style. They're falling in love with, maybe they've watched me a video, or they've watched me at another gig, but they're falling in love with me as a performer, if that kind of makes sense. And I think that when you're selling yourself to a corporate, the most important thing when you sell yourself to that corporate is really selling yourself, right? Not the magic, because there's a million magicians out there. What is it that makes you unique? What's your USP? What's your unique selling point that you can use to sell you above and beyond everybody else? Why should somebody book you over Bob the close-up magician from half a mile down the road? What are the reasons that people should book you? And when you're talking about corporates, you have to kind of get in the head of the event planner. And that changes on a gig by gig basis. So if you get a phone call going, hey, I'm looking for a magician for this awards dinner, you kind of got to think, well, okay, why would they want a magician for an awards dinner? Is it because they want you to help present the awards? Is it because you want to do a cabaret spot? Is it because, and what's the pain that person is going through? And what I mean by that is everybody has pain when they're organizing an event. What are they worried about? What are they worried about, and how can you take that pain away? How can you, offering your services as a magician, take away whatever anxiety they have about the running of this event? So one thing that I always, many years ago, I read this magazine called Bridal Magazine, and they did a survey in there of brides. And I've got this as a PDF that I send out to brides, but I also say it over the phone. And it's something I say that really pushes people towards booking me for a wedding. And what I say to people is I say, hey, I need a survey. I read Bridal Magazine. I am that sad. And a couple of years ago, they did a survey of brides. They surveyed 10,000 brides. And there was a whole bunch of questions in this survey, but the one that I want to tell you about is very interesting. They surveyed thousands of brides. 78% of brides said, looking back at their wedding, they wish they'd spent more money on entertainment. Because when it's all said and done, you don't remember the colour of the chair covers, or whether there are fizzy cola bottles on the sweet stand, or how flashy the disco lights are. What you remember are the memories and experiences that are created throughout the day and into the evening. And the entertainment is a big part to play with that. It's what makes everybody remember the event for all the right reasons. So when you're organising your wedding, make sure that you don't skimp on the entertainment, because ultimately you can have the best buffet in the most wonderful venue in the world, but if you haven't got something that's going to grab people's attention, it's going to be remembered in not the light that you want it to remember in. Think about all the times you've ever been to an event, whether it be a wedding or some other type of party. I guarantee you the ones that are memorable are the ones where there was something unique, not just a disco, but something unique, and you remember back to that, and that is what makes you remember that event. Well, it's the same with your event. You need to focus on the entertainment. And I say that to every bride, and you can see them in their head going, he's right. Their pain is they want their wedding to be memorable. They want their wedding to stand out, and they want their wedding to be unique. And I've just told them, hey, you need to focus on entertainment. So, and you want to make your entertainment unique. So think about why do corporates book magicians was the question. Think about why. You need to ask that question yourself. But don't ask it about magicians, ask it about you. Why would a corporate book you? And then everything that you do, your social proof, your marketing, your digital footprint, your social media, your emails, your mail outs, everything needs to convey that message of, hey, this is what I do and this is why you should book me. So yeah, hopefully that's a long-winded answer to a very short question, but hopefully it helps. Okay, so the next question is Nevio, and Nevio says, great Q&A. Thank you, Nevio. Can you give me some tips on creating my stage show? Wow, this is a very long topic, a very, very, very long topic that's too long for a Q&A. But I could do a video on this for sure. I've done some videos on stage magic before, but not specifically about how to create the stage show. So yeah, I mean, I think the most important part, I'm going to give you a very brief answer, but this is going to be turned into an actual video, Nevio. What I would say is, first of all, understand your character. Because understanding your character, and that's something that a lot of close-up magicians don't think about. Because you don't need to really understand your character to be a close-up magician, but on stage you do. Understand your character, and that's going to dictate everything to you. Understand your character and define stage magic. Like, what type of stages are you wanting to perform on? Are you wanting to perform on the biggest Las Vegas stages? Are you wanting to perform in comedy club type situations? Are you wanting to perform at corporate events where you're standing up in front of a room but you don't really have a stage? Where are you wanting to perform? What's your definition of stage show? So first of all, you have to define stage show, then you have to define your character, because those two things will dictate everything to you. And the most important thing it will dictate is trick selection. And the perfect example is Tom Crosby. So Tom Crosby performs on stages all over the world, and he's made a huge name for himself. And basically, he goes by performing nerd. He is a guy that's on stage doing nerd stuff. So immediately, everything that Tom does has to be based around his image of being a performing nerd. That's why Rubik's Cubes work really well for him. That's why, I'm not going to go into his act, but there's so many things he does in his act that only he could pull off because of his character. And it's the same for any performer with a well-defined character. So the first thing that I would say is take some time thinking about your character, take some time thinking about the type of stages that you want to perform on, and then think about the type of tricks that your character would do, and more importantly, the way your character would deliver them, okay? And then think about how long you want the show to be, and that's going to be defined by the type of places you want to perform in. So if you're wanting to perform on the holiday park circuit, for example, that's going to be a 45-minute show. So you're going to have at least a 45-minute show. So once you've got to the point where you understand how long the show should be and the type of magic that you're wanting to do, then you can start thinking about the structure of the show. And you can think, right, okay, so what am I going to do first of all? I'm going to have this trick. Why am I going to have this? Well, this would make a great opener. Why would it make a great opener? Would it work with my character? Great. So how am I going to transition into that next routine? And stage magic for me is all about transitions. So rather than just standing there going, I'm now going to do another trick. I'm now going to do another trick. You're transitioning from one routine to the other. I'm starting here, I'm transitioning into here, I'm transitioning into here. How are you going to transition from that opening trick to the next bit? How are you going to transfer from that bit to the next bit, and so on and so forth? What's your finale going to be? How many card tricks are you going to do? What other types of magic are you going to do? Are you going to do mentalism? Are you going to do sleight of hand? Are you going to do big box illusions? If you are, that opens up a whole other realm of questions, like where are you going to store them? Are you going to get a van? Who's your assistant going to be? There's a million questions, and that's the reason that a lot of stage magicians, a lot of people who go, I want to be a stage magician, they struggle because they haven't asked themselves those questions. So instead they go out and go, oh, you know what, I've seen people do that trick on stage, I'll do that, I think that'll be good. And then they go and do it with no concept of anything and die on their arse. Because you need to be organized with a stage show. You need to rehearse. And I'm not just talking about what close-up magicians do. When close-up magicians rehearse, they sit in their living room with a table in front of them and they just dick around with a pack of cards. When you're on stage, you have to do a full rehearsal, dress rehearsal, in a place where it's similar to how you would be performing anyway. And you have to, because one of the things is, you have to know where everything is. You have to know where everything is. With a close-up magician, it's all in your pockets. But on stage, you might have stuff in the wings, you might have stuff in your pocket, you might have stuff in a case, you might have stuff over here. And you have to do this full rehearsal over and over again to figure out where everything is. And you have to have it there. So Ryland does this trick on stage, right? And every time we were rehearsing it, when we first put it together, there was going to be a table there, but we rehearsed it without the table. And every time he rehearsed it, he was running through where the table would be. And it was like, Ryland, why are you running through an invisible table? And it's stuff like that. I went to see a stage show once, and the performer who was performing on stage, you could just tell he'd never rehearsed it on stage, because he was getting chairs out to put on the stage to do a chair test, but then he already had chairs out that he'd been using for a previous routine, so he didn't need to bring those chairs in, and it hadn't been well thought out. It was just like, oh, I'm going to do this trick, I'm going to do this trick. And there wasn't any thought about transitioning and where the props would be at the end of that routine, where they would be at the beginning of that routine. There's so much to think about. I mean, performing on stage is great, but there's a lot to think about. I'll do a longer video on this, Nevio, at some point, but hopefully that'll give you some pointers to start off with. Hopefully that'll help. Okay, so various people have asked me variations on this next question, which is, what are you looking forward to personally at Blackpool? What is the thing you're most looking forward to? I'll tell you. There's a few things that I'm looking forward to. The first is John Lenihan. I am a huge John Lenihan fan. If you haven't seen my interview with John Lenihan, it went up last night at 9 o'clock on Talk Magic. Please go check it out. John is a legend. He's performing and he's also lecturing. I'm super excited for John. Also, Michel Huit, which I just butchered his name, even though I constantly try to not butcher it, is one of my favourite performers, and he's coming over from Canada to do a lecture, and I'm a huge fan. Again, I interviewed him on Talk Magic on Tuesday just gone. Go check him out. He's an incredible performer. I'm really looking forward to his lecture. I'm also looking forward to lecturing myself. This has been a big bucket list thing for me for a long time. You know, there's certain things that when I came back into magic, into the magic community, there's certain things that I wanted to achieve, and I put a big list on Facebook a little while ago. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll have seen a big list of goals that I wanted to achieve. One of them was doing a Penguin Live, which I'm going to do straight after Blackpool. One of them was to lecture at Blackpool, which I'm doing, and I'm so excited. If my 18-year-old self could see that I'm lecturing at Blackpool, honestly, I think he'd do a happy dance. So I'm so excited, and also nervous and excited that I'm going to be lecturing at Blackpool. The other thing I'm excited about is doing the podcast with Lloyd on the Friday nights. Like, I've never could have imagined that the podcast would have blown up to the point that it has. We've only been doing it for like 10 weeks, right? And it's already blown up to the point that it's massively further along in terms of the amount of listeners, and, you know, it's just incredible. It's incredible. You know, we've had Mark Elsden say it's one of the best things in magic in 2021, and we only started it at the end of in November. You know, Matthew Wright on his channel today, go check out the Web of Secrets. Matthew Wright talks about the best things to see at Blackpool in 2022, and he's put the Magic podcast on there, which is incredible. I am so humbled. I didn't know whether people would get the podcast, because it's very different to what I do on Magic TV in terms of, yeah, I mean, it's me and Lloyd talking, and we're talking about stuff that's happening in the magic community and magic tricks, but it is a bit edgy, it is a bit confrontational, it is a bit pulls no punches. You know, Murphys don't want to have anything to do with this podcast. We tried to get them to sponsor the podcast, to give away some prizes at Blackpool. They don't want to be, they want to be as far removed from the podcast as they possibly can be, even though Lloyd's involved in it. But the fact that 10 or 11 weeks after doing the podcast and starting it in an industry where there's tons of podcasts already, we're getting the phone call to do the podcast live at Blackpool blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. I'm looking forward to going around the dealer hall and seeing old friends and seeing what's new. I'm looking forward to that. There's several lectures I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward more than anything to just jamming with magicians at Blackpool. I'm super excited about it. And please, if you see me, come over and just let's show each other card tricks and coin tricks and stuff like that. Whether I'm in the Blackpool bar, I'm in the Ruskin, just come over and, you know, let's jam. That would be amazing, incredible. And I'm excited that Ryland's going to be there for his first big convention. Obviously, he went to the London Magic Convention. He had a blast, as he should have, because it was a great convention. But he's coming to Blackpool, and he's going to get to see his dad lecture. He's never seen his dad lecture before. He's going to see his dad lecture, which, again, is so awesome that I get to lecture at Blackpool and my kid gets a chance to see it. That's so good. He's not going to get a chance to see me do the Magic podcast. There's no way that anybody under the age of 18 should ever go and see that podcast. But he's absolutely going to be seeing me lecture. But the thing I'm most excited about, and I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this, and if I'm going to find out, I'm filming this on Wednesday morning. I'll find out before this goes live if I'm allowed to talk about it. If I'm not allowed to talk about it, there's going to be a cut right here. And the final question today is by John Rice. And John says, I love Matrix. Me too, John. Especially the Gene Dill version. Some magicians feel Matrix is passé and doesn't have a lot of entertainment value. Do you do Matrix at gigs? What's your favourite version? Thanks. I do it at gigs, not at walk around. I do it quite often on big tables where there's a lot of space. Not when they're crammed with stuff, but you go to gigs quite a lot, at least here in the UK. And there'll be a lot of space on the tables. I like doing it then. And definitely sort of bar magic, parlor. I'll do Matrix for sure. My favorite version is a version of Matrix that I put on my Mirage coin set from many, many years ago. And it's called the International 5-card Matrix. And the whole idea is it turned the Matrix routine on its head. And I'll perform this for you on a future Q&A. I haven't got the coins with me at the moment. The whole idea is that you put 4 coins out on the table, and each one of them is from a different country. So you've got an American coin, a copper coin, a Chinese coin, and another coin. 4 coins. And then there's no pickup news in this routine, which is beautiful. So you literally cover up the coins. The spectator can do that. They can put the cards on the coins themselves. You then take the 5th card, because there's 5 cards, hence the title, and you put it in the middle of the table. Okay? And then the whole idea is one at a time, you take the coins, and you vanish them. And each coin is a complete vanish. You vanish the coins, and then you show that one at a time they're appearing underneath the center card, the 5th card. So first the silver coin goes, then the copper coin goes. So they all go one at a time. And the final coin, you make the final coin disappear. And when you pick up, there's nothing there. And the reason there's nothing there is because you turn over the cards and they've all kicked back underneath the cards. It's the routine that I did. I lectured that at the Magic Circle. My very first lecture was at the Magic Circle. How nerve-wracking is that? And I was told that it was going to be my audition. So the lecture I did for the Magic Circle was going to be my audition as well. And then I got told afterwards, as a result of the magic that I did, and they specifically pointed to the Matrix because it fooled everybody at the circle, that I was going straight in at AIMC, which is great, which is absolutely fantastic. And I think it's because of that Matrix. So I love the Matrix plot. I do probably 5,000 versions of Matrix. If you want a great impromptu version, the Dave Jones Matrix is brilliant, which I taught on my first Alakazam Coin Magic Academy with Dave Jones's permission. But there's a whole bunch of other routines, matrices that I do as well. Dean Dills is obviously amazing. All the different variations of Matrix he does is amazing. But my favourite one, if I was booked to perform and I had the gimmicks with me, I would do the International 5-card Matrix from Mirage. So there you go, guys. That is another. That's another Q&A in the bag. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this week's Q&A. Thank you very much for once again coming and checking us out here on Magic TV. Really, really appreciate it. Don't forget, if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments to this video and I'll get to them next Sunday. If you haven't already done so, please go to www.magictv.org. Fill in the contact form there. We will let you know when we go live with the Netrix. It is coming soon. You want to see more videos like this? Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you're excited about the Quantum deck. And thank you to everybody that's picked up Playlist in the last couple of weeks and said nice things about it, which is my new Alakazam release. Thank you so much. I'm glad you guys like it. I'm going to be back again later on today. We got three more videos coming up later on today. There's a shorts at 2, at 6 o'clock there's a live, and at 9 o'clock there's a review so special. And then on Monday I'm going to be back with a shorts at 2, a live at 6, and a 5x5. at 9 o'clock. So there's a lot coming up here on Magic TV. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you again soon. My name's Craig from Magic TV.